The first thing I registered was the cold, wet stone pressing against my cheek. Then the smell, damp earth and rotting leaves from the back garden of my maiden home. I scrambled to my knees, my heart hammering. The last thing I remembered was the burning in my throat, the smug faces of my husband and his family as I choked on the medicine they so kindly provided. Now I was young again, my hands small and uncalloused, the night-blooming jasmine my mother had planted years ago still heavy with scent beside me. A shrill voice cut through the twilight. "You clumsy fool. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I peered through the willow branches. My sister-in-law, Lin Yuyan, stood with her back to me, her silhouette trembling with manufactured fury. Before her, on her knees in the muddy grass, was a young maid sobbing and prostrating herself. Between them, floating in the murky water of the lotus pond, was a single hairpin of kingfisher feathers and gold, my mother's wedding gift to me. It was an accident. "Young Mistress Lin," the maid wailed. I tripped. "Please, I beg you, have mercy." Lin Yuyan's voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "Mercy or mistress, that so-called virtuous Shui Ling, has been a stain on this family since she arrived. A poor scholar's daughter who thinks she can rise above her station. Now she's ruined the only thing of value she brought with her. Ruined by you. It's fitting, isn't it, the orphan and the fool, both worthless." I rose to my feet, my worn silk dress whispering against the stones. Rage burned through me, hot and blinding. This was the day. The day Lin Yuyan orchestrated the destruction of my prized possession to humiliate me, then spread the rumor that I had beaten the maid nearly to death. That rumor had been the first crack in my reputation as a gentle, capable wife, a crack she would widen over the years until my entire character was a ruin. "Chunhua," I called out, my voice steady and clear. I stepped from the cover of the willows. Lin Yuyan spun around, her eyes widening in a flicker of surprise before she composed her features into a mask of concern. "Sister-in-law, you startled me. I was just dealing with a matter of your households. Step away from my maid," I said, my tone leaving no room for argument. I walked past her as if she were invisible and offered my hand to the weeping girl. "Chunhua, stand up." She took it, her own trembling and muddy, her eyes full of terror. "Look at me." Her face was a mess of tears and dirt, but her eyes were clear. She wasn't a fool. She was terrified. "But, young mistress," she stammered, "the hairpin, I can get it." I could. "It's just a hairpin," I said, loud enough for Lin Yuyan to hear clearly. "It was a gift, yes, but it is not worth your tears, and it is certainly not worth your reputation. A life is infinitely more valuable than gold and feathers." From behind me, Lin Yuyan laughed, that same condescending, disbelieving laugh I had heard 1,000 times. "How magnanimous of you, sister-in-law. Weren't you telling me just yesterday how your mother's hairpin was your most treasured possession? How you couldn't bear to part with it?" I turned to face her, letting a bead of silence hang in the air. I agreed, my voice dripping with sweet honey. "But I was wrong. A treasure is merely a thing. A person's character, however, is everything. To punish a poor girl for a simple accident, what kind of person would do such a thing? What kind of family would condone such cruelty?" Lin Yuyan's face went pale. Her eyes darted to the side, and I followed her gaze. Through the archway leading to the main courtyard, I saw my mother-in-law, old Madame Shui, and my husband, Shui Yuan, standing with a group of visiting relatives and servants. They had heard me. I had just thrown down the gauntlet, and I had painted her as a cruel tyrant in front of the exact audience she had intended to use to shame me. "Sister-in-law," she hissed, stepping closer. "You misunderstand. I was merely concerned for your property." "And I am concerned for my soul," I replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Haven't you heard? Sister-in-law, virtue is a woman's most beautiful adornment. I would rather lose every hairpin I own than be seen as a woman who would beat a servant for a trifle. I am sure you would never want to be perceived as such a woman either." Her composure finally shattered. A flush of scarlet crept up her neck, suffusing her cheeks. "I would never." "Then you will not mind if I tell everyone," I said, my voice soft, "that it was a minor mishap and the maid has been forgiven." Won't you, sister-in-law, to clear up any misunderstandings? Her mouth opened and closed. She forced a brittle smile. Of course. It was just a hairpin. Thank you for your understanding, I said, bowing my head slightly. I turned my back on her and walked towards the archway, leaving her fuming in the garden. I reached the group, curtsied to my mother-in-law and husband, and smiled. My apologies for the disturbance. A silly little thing. It's been resolved. Shui Yuan looked at me with a flicker of surprise, as if seeing me for the first time. The old Shui Ling would have been flustered, apologetic, and ashamed. This new one was cool, composed, and decisive. He didn't say anything, but a small, enigmatic smile played at the corner of his mouth. Old Madame Shui simply nodded, patting my hand. A sensible girl, she murmured. But my gaze was fixed on Lin Yuyan, who was just joining the group, her face still tinged with pink. I saw it, a flash of pure, unadulterated hatred in her eyes. She knew she had lost this battle, but she also knew the war was just beginning. And this time, so did I. I knew she would try again, that she would spread her poison in whispers and lies. But the first seed of doubt had been sown not in the minds of my family about me, but in their minds about her. The memory of bitter medicine was a ghost on my tongue, a constant reminder of my end. Revenge was a dish best served cold, and I had a decade of it to prepare. My sister-in-law thought she could write my story. She was wrong. I was the author now, and I was just beginning the first draft. The next morning, the household was astir with rumors. The story of my magnanimity and Lin Yuyan's pettiness had already made its rounds, as I knew it would. I saw it in the lowered gazes of the junior servants and the knowing glances of the senior ones. My husband had given me a gift, a new hairpin of simple jade, a quiet acknowledgement of my conduct the previous evening. He was a man of few words, Shui Yuan. In my past life, I had mistaken his silence for weakness and his distance for indifference. Now I knew it was a carefully constructed wall, built to keep out the chaos of the household. Breakfast was a study in tension. I sat at the long table, my spine straight, the new jade hairpin a cool weight in my hair. Across from me, Lin Yuyan was playing the part of the devoted daughter and sister, serving tea to her mother and flattering her brother. She was a master of this performance, her voice a melodic hum, her gestures graceful. But I saw the tightness around her eyes, the way her gaze flickered to me every few seconds, assessing, calculating. After the meal, while the servants cleared the table, Shui Yuan rose to leave for his study. Linger, he said, pausing by my chair, his voice a low murmur. Walk with me. It was not a request. Lin Yuyan's head snapped up. Brother, you're leaving so soon? Mother wanted to discuss the arrangements for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Later, he said, not even looking at her. He offered me his hand. I took it, my heart thrumming. In my past life, he had never singled me out like this. We walked in silence through the covered corridors, past the courtyard where a few scraggly chrysanthemums were beginning to bloom. We stopped at the entrance of the smaller garden, a place of quiet reflection he favored. He finally released my hand and turned to face me. You were different last night, he said, his dark eyes studying my face with unnerving intensity. You were formidable. I felt a blush creep up my neck, but I didn't look away. I was simply being myself, husband. Were you? He took a step closer. I have known you for 2 years, Shui Ling. I have never seen you stand your ground. You have always been so eager to please my mother, to placate my sister, to be the perfect, invisible wife. But last night he paused. Last night, you drew a line in the sand, and you dared my sister to cross it. I chose my words carefully. Perhaps I realized that being invisible is not the same as being safe. Perhaps I realized that the only way to protect what is mine is to be seen. A flicker of something, surprise perhaps, crossed his face. He opened his mouth to speak, but his words were cut off by frantic footsteps on the gravel path. A young maid, her face pale and streaked with tears, came running towards us. It was Chunhua. Young mistress, she cried, nearly collapsing into a curtsy. Please, you must come. It's second young master. Second young master was Lin Yuyan's younger brother, a spoiled and troublesome boy of 16 named Lin Wei. "What's the matter, Chuanhua?" I asked, my voice calm but my mind racing. "He's fallen," she sobbed. "Near the lotus pond. He's been hurt badly. He broke his leg." "Young Mistress Lin, she is saying that you ordered the stones to be loosened. She's screaming it in the front hall. She's saying you did it to get revenge on her." I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. The trap was sprung. I had won the first skirmish, so she had escalated. She wasn't just trying to ruin my reputation this time. She was accusing me of attempted murder. I looked at my husband, whose face had gone from surprise to hard and unreadable. The old Shui Ling would have panicked, would have wept and pleaded, which would only have made her look guilty. I had to be the new me, formidable, fearless. "Show me," I said to Chunhua, my voice cutting through her sobs. I began to walk briskly towards the main house, Shui Yuan falling into step beside me. In my mind, a plan was forming, a desperate, audacious plan. Lin Yuyan was trying to use her brother's misfortune as a weapon against me. But I knew the truth about Lin Wei. I knew his secret, a secret I had only discovered in my previous life, years too late. He was a gambler, deeply in debt, and his accident was likely a cover for a beating he had received from his creditors. He had hidden the bruises and lied about a fall, and Lin Yuyan, to save face, had accepted his story. But now she was using my name to weave a new lie around it. This time, I was going to use that secret to expose her. The front hall was in chaos when we arrived. Lin Yuyan stood in the center, her face twisted with grief and fury, a handkerchief pressed to her eyes. Surrounding her were my mother-in-law, several senior servants, and a few relatives who had been visiting for the festival. Lin Wei was nowhere to be seen, probably carried to his room to be tended by a bone setter. "How could she do this?" Lin Yuyan wailed, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. My poor brother, a mere boy, and she would see him crippled, all because of a petty squabble over a hairpin. I knew she was angry, but I never thought her capable of such wickedness. Old Madame Shui sat in her carved armchair, her face pale and drawn. "Yu Yan, calm yourself. We do not know. She was the only one in the garden last night." Lin Yuyan cried, cutting her mother off. "She was seen there. Who else would have loosened those stones? Who else holds such a grudge against our family?" I stepped through the doorway, Shui Yuan at my side. Every head turned to face me. Lin Yuyan's eyes narrowed when she saw me, but she quickly resumed her performance, letting out a fresh sob. "Here she is." Lin Yuyan pointed a trembling finger at me. "The snake who smiles while she plots murder." I walked calmly to the center of the hall and curtsied to old Madame Shui. "Mother, I have heard the accusation. I assure you, I am innocent of this charge." "Innocent?" Lin Yuyan laughed, a bitter, hysterical sound. "You are the only one who could have done it. You and that miserable maid of yours. I saw you lurking near the pond just this morning. You were examining the stones. Weren't you making sure your trap was set?" I turned to face her, my expression serene. "I was in the garden this morning, yes. I went to retrieve a fallen flower from the willow tree. Chunhua was with me. She can testify that we did nothing more than walk along the path. Your maid would say anything to protect you." Lin Yuyan spat. "She is your creature, your accomplice." "Yuyan, that is enough," Shui Yuan said, his voice low and cold. "You are making serious accusations without proof." "Proof?" She whirled on her brother. "What proof do you need? He broke his leg on those stones. The stones that were recently loosened. And who benefits from harming my brother, who is the one person in this household with a reason to hate my family?" She turned back to face me, her eyes blazing. "It was you, Shui Ling. It was always you. You are jealous of the affection my mother and brother show me. You are bitter that my family has more status than your poor, disgraced scholar's household. You tried to ruin my reputation last night with that pathetic performance of virtue, and when that didn't work, you turned to violence against my blood." The hall fell silent. Even the servants had stopped pretending to work, their ears straining to catch every word. I could feel the weight of their stares, the judgment in their eyes. Old Madame Shui looked at me with something approaching suspicion. Shui Yuan's face was unreadable, but I could see the tension in his jaw. This was the moment. If I faltered now, everything I had gained would be lost. I took a deep breath and let my voice ring out, clear and steady. Sister-in-law, I understand your grief. Your brother is injured, and you are frightened and angry. But you are pointing your finger at the wrong person. Liar, she screamed. I am not the one with a secret to hide, I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper. And neither is my maid. But perhaps your brother is. Lin Yuyen's face went white. What are you talking about? I turned to old Madame Shui. Mother, I beg your permission to speak freely. Old Madame Shui hesitated, then nodded slowly. Speak. I straightened my shoulders and looked directly at Lin Yuyen. Your brother did not fall because of a loosened stone. He was beaten by the collectors of a gambling debt. He has been running with a bad crowd for months now, borrowing money he cannot repay. His injuries are not from a fall, they are from fists and clubs. I suspect if you examine his body, you will find bruises on his ribs and back that have nothing to do with a trip to a pond. A collective gasp rippled through the hall. Lin Yuyen's face flushed an angry red. How dare you? How dare you slander my brother like this? I am not slandering him, I said calmly. I am telling the truth. I saw the marks myself. I saw him sneak out of the servants' gate 3 nights ago, pale and shaking. I heard him begging the steward for money. I know the name of the man he owes, a merchant named Chen from the Eastern District, who runs a gambling den behind his silk shop. If you doubt me, send someone to inquire. The merchant has no reason to lie for me. Lin Yuyen was shaking now, her hands balled into fists at her sides. You are lying. You are making this up to save yourself. I took a step closer to her. Then let us go to your brother's room right now. Let us ask him directly. Ask him where he really was last night. Ask him who hit him. Ask him if he has been lying to you about his debts. I am willing to face him, face to face. Are you? Lin Yuyen opened her mouth, but no words came out. I saw the calculation in her eyes, the frantic search for a way out. She knew I was telling the truth. She had always known, or at least suspected, but had chosen to protect her brother's reputation at my expense. Now I was forcing her hand. Old Madame Shui rose from her chair, her face grim. Yuyen, she said, her voice cold. Is what your sister-in-law saying true? Mother, no. She is, because if it is true, old Madame Shui continued, then not only have you slandered an innocent woman, but you have allowed your brother to bring shame upon this household. Gambling debts, violence from lowlifes. Our family's name would be ruined if this became known. Lin Yuyen broke then. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face, but these tears were not for show. They were tears of desperation, of a woman who had been caught in her own web. Mother, I did not know, she sobbed. I swear to you, I did not know the full extent. I only suspected something, but I thought I was protecting him. I thought if I could blame someone else, we could avoid the scandal. You thought you could ruin your sister-in-law to save your brother's reputation, Shui Yuan said, his voice like ice. You thought you could destroy an innocent woman to protect a guilty boy. I did not mean for it to go this far. Lin Yuyen wailed. I only wanted to punish her for humiliating me. She made me look like a fool in front of everyone. I thought if I could turn the tables, if I could make everyone believe she was the villain. And you would have succeeded, I said quietly, if I had not known the truth about your brother. If I had not been watching, listening, paying attention. You underestimated me, sister-in-law. You always have. The hall was deathly quiet. Even Lin Yuyen's sobs had subsided into shuddering breaths. Old Madame Shui turned away, her shoulders sagging with disappointment and exhaustion. Yuyen, go to your room, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We will discuss your punishment later. Shui Yuan, have someone bring Lin Wei to me. I want to hear the truth from his own lips. Lin Yuyen staggered to her feet, her face blotched and tear-streaked. She looked at me with pure, undiluted hatred. This is not over, she hissed, so softly that only I could hear. You think you have won, but you have only made a powerful enemy. I will destroy you, Shui Ling. I will. You will do nothing, I said, my voice equally soft. Because if you try anything, I will make sure everyone knows about your brother's debts. I will make sure the entire city knows that the Lin family is harboring a gambler and a liar. Is that what you want? Because I have nothing left to lose. I have already died once, sister-in-law. You cannot scare a woman who has already faced her own death. Her eyes widened in shock, as if she had seen something in my face that terrified her. She stumbled back, then turned and fled the hall, her sobs echoing down the corridor. I stood in the center of the room, my heart pounding, my hands trembling slightly. I had won this battle, but I knew it was only the beginning. Lin Yuyan would not give up so easily. She would regroup, find another angle, try again. But for now, I had done what I had set out to do. I had exposed her lies, in front of everyone. The seed of doubt I had planted the night before had blossomed into full-blown truth. My name was cleared, at least for this accusation. Shui Yuan came to stand beside me. Are you all right? He asked, his voice softer than I had ever heard it. I nodded, not trusting my voice. You are magnificent, he said. I have never seen anyone stand up to my sister like that. She has been manipulating this family for years, and no one has ever dared to challenge her. She has been manipulating you too, I said quietly. She has been telling you lies about me, has she not? For years. He looked away, guilt flickering in his eyes. Yes, he admitted. She told me you were cold, that you looked down on our family, that you resented your position. I believed her. I kept my distance, thinking you were unhappy with your marriage. None of that was true, I said. I was only trying to be the perfect wife. I thought if I was quiet, if I never complained, if I did everything right, everyone would accept me. But I was invisible, and invisibility made me a target. Not anymore, he said. You are very visible now. I almost smiled at that. Yes, I agreed. I suppose I am. Old Madame Shui approached me, her expression softened. Shui Ling, I owe you an apology. I have allowed my daughter to rule this household with her whims and her venom. I believed her lies because she is my blood, and I was too blind to see the truth. I have wronged you deeply. Mother, I forgive you, I said, and I meant it. In my past life, old Madame Shui had been a pawn, just like everyone else. She had been manipulated by her daughter, and she had believed the stories she was told because she had no reason to doubt. I was not angry at her. I was angry at the woman who had orchestrated it all. From now on, old Madame Shui continued, you will have a proper place in this household. Your word will carry weight. If my daughter attempts to cause trouble again, you will come to me directly. Understood. Thank you, mother, I said, curtsying, and I will speak to Lin Wei, she added grimly. If the boy is in debt, we will settle it. But he will be punished severely for his lies and for allowing his sister to use his misfortune as a weapon against an innocent woman. This family has been torn apart by deceit, and I will not allow it to continue. I left the hall with Shui Yuan at my side. As we walked through the corridors, the servants bowed their heads to me, not out of obligation, but out of respect. I was no longer the invisible wife, the outsider, the woman they could ignore. I had earned my place. Shui Yuan stopped at the entrance to my quarters. Shui Ling, he said, his voice hesitant, I would like to make amends. I have been a poor husband to you. I have given you distance and silence when I should have given you support. If you will allow me, I would like to change that. I looked at him, this man who had been a stranger to me for so long. In my past life, we had never truly been partners. We had been two people sharing a house, nothing more. But now, in this second chance, I saw something different in his eyes. I saw regret, yes, but I also saw hope. He was offering me an alliance, perhaps even something more. But I was not ready to trust him fully. Not yet. There were too many secrets still buried, too many lies still uncovered. One day at a time, husband, I said carefully. Trust must be earned. He nodded, accepting my answer. One day at a time, he repeated. I will prove myself to you, Shui Ling. I swear it. I entered my quarters and closed the door behind me. The room was quiet, the familiar scent of sandalwood and old paper filling the air. I sat down at my vanity and looked at my reflection in the bronze mirror. The face looking back at me was young, untouched by the years of suffering I had endured. But the eyes were different. They were older, wiser, sharper. They had seen the future, and they were not afraid. Chunhua entered, her eyes red-rimmed, but her expression determined. "Young mistress," she said, "I heard what you did for me. You saved me from a terrible punishment. I will never forget it." "Chunhua," I said gently, "you are loyal and honest. That is a rare thing in this household. From now on, you are not just my maid. You are my ally. We will protect each other, you and I." She knelt before me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I would die for you, young mistress. I swear it on my ancestors." I helped her to her feet. "No dying," I said with a faint smile. "Only living. And winning." As the night fell and the household settled into uneasy silence, I sat by the window and thought about what came next. Lin Yuyan had been exposed, but she was not defeated. A woman like her would not give up so easily. She would find another way to attack me, another lie to spread. I had to be ready. I had to gather allies, uncover more secrets, build a web of truth that would eventually trap her completely. And there were others in this household whose secrets I knew. The head steward was embezzling funds. The cook was skimming from the kitchen budget. The senior maid in my mother-in-law's quarters was passing information to a rival family. All of them were pawns that could be turned if I played my cards right. But most importantly, I had to keep my own secret close. No one could know that I had lived this life before, that I had died and been reborn. That knowledge was my greatest weapon and also my greatest vulnerability. If anyone discovered the truth, they would think I was a demon, a spirit, something to be feared and destroyed. No, I would keep my secret safe, and I would use the knowledge I had gained to carve a new path for myself. I looked at the jade hairpin Shui Yuan had given me. It was simple, unadorned, but it was a gift freely given, a gesture of goodwill. Perhaps there was hope for us yet. Perhaps in this new life, I could find happiness. But I would not let myself be a fool again. I would not trust blindly, love recklessly, or forgive easily. I had learned my lesson the hard way. The night deepened, and the moon rose high over the garden. I heard the distant sound of shouting. Lin Wei, no doubt, being confronted by his mother. I heard weeping, the sound of furniture being overturned, the sharp crack of a slap. The household was in turmoil, and all because I had dared to speak the truth. But that was the price of survival. If I had to burn this family to the ground to save myself, I would do it. I had been given a second chance, and I would not waste it. I closed my eyes and let the night wash over me. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles. But for tonight, I was safe. I was alive. And I was ready to fight. The morning after Lin Yuyan's public humiliation, the household woke to a tense and brittle silence. Servants moved through the corridors with their eyes downcast, speaking only in hushed whispers. The usual clatter of kitchen activity was muted, and even the birds in the garden seemed to have abandoned their songs. I sat at breakfast with old Madame Shui and my husband, the empty seat where Lin Yuyan usually sat a glaring reminder of the previous day's events. My mother-in-law's face was drawn and pale, her hands trembling slightly as she lifted her teacup. Shui Yuan ate in silence, his gaze distant, lost in thought. "Yuyan will not be joining us this morning," old Madame Shui finally said, her voice flat. "She is taken to her bed. The physician says she is suffering from a severe shock to her constitution." I kept my expression carefully neutral. "I hope she recovers quickly, mother. If there is anything I can do to assist, you have done enough," old Madame Shui said, and there was a flicker of something in her voice, not accusation, but wariness. She was a woman who had been shaken to her core, forced to confront the ugliness that had festered beneath her own roof. She did not know who to trust anymore, and I could not blame her for that. Trust, once broken, was not easily rebuilt. Let her rest. She needs time to reflect on her actions. Shui Yuan set down his chopsticks. "Mother, I would like to speak with Wei today. Alone." Old Madame Shui's jaw tightened. "He has been confined to his room. The bone setter says his leg will heal, but he will bear a limp for the rest of his life. The physician says the damage to his knee was severe. He may never walk properly again. I need to know the full extent of his debts. Shui Yuan pressed. If there are more creditors lurking, we need to know who they are and how much they are owed. I will not have this family dragged into scandal because of a boy's foolishness. The merchants will take their payment eventually, I interjected softly. But if we delay, they may become impatient. Gossip spreads quickly in the city. If they start talking about the debts, it will be much harder to contain the damage. Shui Yuan looked at me with a mixture of surprise and respect. He was not used to his wife offering strategic advice, I realized. In my past life, I had always deferred to him, never offering an opinion unless asked. But that woman was gone. I was no longer content to be seen and not heard. You are right, he said slowly. I will speak with the steward. We will need to assess the family's finances. If Wei has been gambling heavily, the losses could be substantial. He rose from the table. Mother, with your permission, I will handle this matter. You have enough to worry about. Old Madame Shui nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Do what you must. I cannot bear any more shame in this household. I followed Shui Yuan out of the dining hall, matching his pace through the winding corridors. Husband, I said quietly, I know you are focused on the debts, but there is something else you should consider. He stopped and turned to face me. What is it? The senior maid in your mother's quarters, I said. Her name is Lianhua. She has been passing information to a rival family for years. The Liu family, the ones who live on the western side of the city. I have seen her meeting with their steward in the market, exchanging packets of letters. She is not merely a gossip. She is a spy. Shui Yuan's face went pale. How do you know this? I have been watching, I said simply. For a long time I have noticed things. The Liu family always seems to know our business. They always seem to have an advantage in negotiations, in trade deals. It is not coincidence. It is betrayal. He stared at me, his expression unreadable. In my past life, this revelation would have come as a complete shock to him. He would have demanded proof, questioned my sources, perhaps even accused me of making false accusations. But this new version of me was different. I spoke with certainty, with conviction, because I had lived through these revelations once before. Lianhua has been with my mother for 20 years, he said slowly. She is trusted. She knows everything about this household, which is exactly why the Liu family chose her, I replied. Would you like me to prove it to you? I can have Chunhua watch her. Within 3 days, I guarantee you, Lianhua will make a mistake. She will meet with the Liu steward again, and we will catch her red-handed. He was silent for a long moment, his jaw tight. If this is true, he finally said, his voice low and hard, then my sister is not the only traitor in this house. The rot goes deeper than I thought. It does, I agreed. But we can root it out one piece at a time. He reached out and took my hand, squeezing it gently. I never knew you were so observant, he said, a hint of wonder in his voice. I have been blind to so much. I squeezed his hand back, but I did not let myself get carried away by the warmth of his touch. I will have Chunhua begin her watch today, I said, pulling my hand away gently. In the meantime, you should focus on Lin Wei. The boy is terrified, and terrified boys say foolish things. He might let slip more than he intends. Shui Yuan nodded. I will handle it. He paused, studying my face. You are not what I thought you were, Shui Ling. I am beginning to see that. Nor are you what I thought you were, I replied. Perhaps we are both changing. I left him in the corridor and made my way to my quarters, where Chunhua was waiting with a fresh pot of tea. The girl was still pale from the previous day's ordeal, but there was a new steel in her spine, a new determination in her eyes. Young mistress, she said as she poured the tea. I have done as you asked. I have been watching the senior maid, Lianhua. She left the compound this morning, just after dawn. She said she was going to the market to buy herbs for old Madame's headache, but I followed her. She went straight to the Liu family's back gate and spoke with their steward for nearly a quarter of an hour. I felt a surge of triumph. Did you see what she passed to him? No, Chunhua admitted, but she was carrying a small pouch, the kind used for letters. And she came back with a different pouch, one that was heavier. She is exchanging information, I said, my mind racing. The Liu family is giving her instructions, and she is feeding them intelligence in return. We need to catch her in the act, with proof. That will give us leverage. Chunhua's eyes sparkled with excitement. What do you want me to do? Continue watching her. Note her patterns, her routines. Does she meet with the Liu steward on specific days? Does she use the same route? Is there a particular time when the household is busy and she is less likely to be noticed? She usually goes out after the midday meal, Chunhua said. When everyone is resting. She slips out through the servants' gate and returns within an hour. I can hide near the gate and wait for her. Good, I said. But be careful. If she suspects she is being watched, she will become cautious, and we will lose our chance. Do not get too close. And if you see anyone else following her, report to me immediately. Chunhua nodded, her expression fierce with loyalty. I will not let you down, young mistress. I know you will not, I said gently. You are the only person in this household I trust completely. After she left, I sat alone in my quarters thinking. The Liu family was a powerful clan, wealthy merchants with ties to the provincial governor. They had been rivals to the Shui family for generations, always trying to edge us out of lucrative trade deals, always looking for an advantage. If they had a spy inside our household, it explained so much about the past decade of decline. My husband's business ventures had repeatedly failed. Our family's reputation had suffered a slow erosion of trust. Deals had been lost, contracts had been broken, and all the while, the Liu family had grown richer and more powerful. In my past life, Lin Yuyan had been the primary architect of my downfall, but the Liu family had been her unwitting allies. They had fed her information, exploited her jealousy, used her as a pawn in their own schemes. And she had been too arrogant to see it, too blinded by her hatred of me to realize that she was being manipulated. But this time, I would use that connection to my advantage. If I could expose Lianhua, I could expose the Liu family's treachery. And if I could expose the Liu family's treachery, I could bring down not just Lin Yuyan, but the entire web of enemies that had destroyed me. The pieces were falling into place. Later that afternoon, I made my way to Lin Wei's quarters. The young man was lying in bed, his legs splinted and wrapped in bandages, his face pale and drawn. The bruises on his arms and chest were visible even beneath his loose sleeping robe, dark, mottled patches of purple and black that told a story far more violent than a simple fall. Second young master, I said as I entered, closing the door behind me. I hope I am not intruding. Lin Wei flinched at the sight of me. His eyes darted away, unable to meet my gaze. What do you want? He muttered. Come to gloat to rub salt in the wound. I have not come to gloat, I said calmly. I have come to help you. He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Help me, you are the one who got me caught. You are the one who exposed me to my mother and brother. I was fine. I was managing my debts, and you had to open your mouth and ruin everything. Managing your debts. I raised an eyebrow. Is that what you call it? You borrowed money from criminals. You gambled on games you could not win. You were one missed payment away from being beaten to death, and you call that managing? He said nothing, but his hands clenched the bedsheets, his knuckles white. I know you are angry, I continued, but I am not your enemy. Your sister is. She tried to use you as a weapon to destroy me. She did not care about your welfare, your reputation, or your safety. All she cared about was hurting me. Do you understand that she would have sacrificed you to satisfy her own petty vengeance? Lin Wei's face crumpled. She said I could trust her. She said she would fix everything. She said if I just went along with her story, the debts would be paid and no one would ever know. And you believed her? I shook my head. Your sister does not fix things. She creates problems. She's like a child playing with fire, too stupid to realize she is burning down the house around her. He was crying now, silent tears streaming down his cheeks. I did not know what else to do. I was so scared. They said they would kill me if I did not pay. They broke my leg, and they said they would come back for the other one. I was desperate. Desperate enough to let your sister frame an innocent woman for attempted murder. I asked, my voice sharp. Do you have any idea what would have happened to me if your mother and brother had believed her? I would have been cast out, disgraced, perhaps even turned over to the authorities. I could have been executed for a crime I did not commit. I did not think, he started. No, I interrupted. You did not. That is the problem. You let your fear control you, and you let your sister manipulate you. But now you have a choice. You can continue to be her pawn, or you can help me stop her. He looked up at me, his eyes red and swollen. Help you how? First, I need you to tell me the full truth about your debts. Every merchant you owe, every amount, every promise you made. Do not hide anything. If your sister is using these debts to blackmail you, I need to know. He hesitated, then nodded slowly. There are 5. The merchant Chen from the Eastern District, a moneylender named Zhang, a card sharper who runs a game in the Southern Market, and 2 others smaller debts, but they are still pressing me for payment. The total is nearly 3,000 taels. I felt a chill run down my spine. 3,000 taels was a fortune. It was more than the family's annual income from trade. No wonder Lin Wei had been desperate. No wonder Lin Yuyan had seen an opportunity to use him. I can talk to your brother, I said carefully. He is already planning to settle the debts. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to write a letter, a confession, detailing everything your sister did. How she convinced you to lie about the fall, how she promised to pay your debts in exchange for your cooperation, how she plotted to destroy me. If you write it, I will make sure your brother protects you. I will make sure the family does not cast you out. Lin Wei's eyes widened. A letter you want me to betray my own sister. Your sister betrayed you, I said bluntly. She used you. She would have let you take the blame if the scheme had failed. She would have sacrificed you without a second thought. Is that really the person you want to protect? He was silent for a long moment, his face twisted with inner conflict. Finally, he let out a shuddering breath. I will do it, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But you have to promise me. Promise me my debts will be paid. Promise me my mother will not disown me. You have my word, I said. Your debts will be paid, and your family will not abandon you. I will make sure of it. I left Lin Wei's quarters with the weight of a new weapon in my arsenal. The confession letter was not enough on its own. It was the word of a desperate boy against the word of a well-loved daughter. But combined with the evidence from Chuanhua's surveillance, combined with my own testimony, it would create a devastating case against Lin Yuyan. She would have no way to escape. The next 2 days were a blur of careful observation and quiet maneuvers. Chunhua reported that Lianhua had made 2 more trips to the Lu family's back gate, each time carrying a pouch of letters and returning with a different one. We had not yet caught her in the act, but we were building a pattern. On the 3rd day, Chunhua came to me with shining eyes. Young mistress, she is going again, she said. She just left the compound. I think this is the big one. I overheard her talking to the cook. She said she had important business to attend to and would not return until evening. Follow her, I said, rising from my seat. I will inform my husband. We will catch her together. I found Shui Yuan in his study, reviewing the family's ledgers. His face was grim when I entered, and I saw the dark circles under his eyes. He had been working late into the night, trying to untangle the web of debts and financial mismanagement that Lin Wei had created. Shui Ling, he said, looking up. What is it? Lianhua is making another trip to the Lu family, I said. Chunhua is following her now. If we move quickly, we can catch her at the meeting. Shui Yuan rose to his feet immediately, his expression hardening into cold determination. Where is the meeting? The servant's gate, but she will not meet him there. I suspect she is going to a different location, somewhere more private. Chunhua will signal us when she knows. We left the study and made our way to the servants' courtyard, staying out of sight behind a row of flowering shrubs. Within minutes, Chunhua appeared, her face flushed with excitement. Young master, young mistress, she said, breathless. She did not go to the gate. She went to the old well near the eastern wall. The Lu steward is waiting for her there. I saw them exchange a pouch and a letter. Show us, Shui Yuan ordered. We followed Chunhua through the winding paths of the servants' quarters, avoiding the main thoroughfares. The old well was a forgotten structure, half hidden by overgrown weeds and a crumbling stone wall. As we approached, I could hear voices, low, urgent, the sound of business being conducted in secret. "This is the final installment," a man's voice said. "Your mistress will be pleased. The Shui family is on the verge of collapse. With the debts and the scandal, they will be forced to sell their trading rights." "And the daughter-in-law," another voice asked, Lianhua's, sharp and calculating. "What about her? The young mistress has been causing trouble. She has exposed Lin Yuyan's schemes and turned the family against her." "The Liu family does not care about internal squabbles," the man replied dismissively. "If the Shui family destroys itself from within, so much the better. But we need your continued cooperation. The information you have provided has been invaluable. We are willing to pay double for whatever you can tell us about the daughter-in-law. If she is as dangerous as you say, we need to know everything." Shui Yuan stepped out from behind the wall, his face like thunder. "I think you have said enough." Lianhua shrieked and dropped the pouch she had been holding, spilling a handful of coins onto the ground. The Liu steward, a thin man with a weasel-like face, turned and tried to run, but Shui Yuan was faster. He grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him against the well. "You'll tell me everything," Shui Yuan snarled. "Who else is working with you? What other families have spies in my household?" The steward whimpered, his eyes darting wildly. I only follow orders. I am just a messenger." "Then you will tell me who gives the orders," Shui Yuan pressed. "Or I will have you thrown into the city prison for espionage. You know what happens to spies. Do you not? The magistrate is not kind to those who meddle in the affairs of noble families." "I will talk," the steward cried. "I will talk. It is the Liu family's second son, Liu Han. He has been planning to take over your family's trade routes for years. He hired me to cultivate Lianhua as a source. She has been feeding us information about your family's business dealings, your shipping schedules, your trade partners. Everything. We have been using that information to undercut your contracts and steal your merchants." Shui Yuan's grip on the steward's collar tightened until the man was gasping for air. "How many contracts have you stolen?" "More than a dozen," the steward admitted, his voice choked with fear. We thought if we could weaken your family enough, you would be forced to sell your trading rights to us." Liu Han wanted to become the sole merchant in this district. He wanted to control all the shipping routes between here and the capital. Shui Yuan released the man, shoving him to the ground. "Chunhua, fetch the household guards. Have this man placed in the storage room under guard. Do not let him speak to anyone." "Yes, young master." Chunhua ran off, her footsteps fading into the distance. Lianhua was kneeling on the ground, her face ashen, her hands trembling. "Young master, please," she begged. "I did not want to do it. They threatened my family. They said if I did not cooperate, they would harm my children." "Your children live in my household," Shui Yuan said coldly. "They are under my protection. And you used that trust to betray us. You have no one to blame but yourself." "Please," she sobbed. "I will do anything. I will confess to everything. Just do not hurt my children." I stepped forward and knelt beside Lianhua, my voice soft but firm. "Your children will not be harmed," I said. "But you must cooperate with us fully. You will write a confession, detailing every piece of information you have passed to the Liu family. You will name every contact, every meeting, every payment. If you do that, I will ensure that your children are treated well and your family is protected." Lianhua looked up at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You would do that for me after everything I have done?" "I am not a cruel woman," I said. "I am not Lin Yuyan. I do not seek to destroy people for the sake of destruction. I only seek justice." Lianhua broke down, sobbing into her hands. "I will confess," she said. "I will tell you everything." Shui Yuan stood over us, his expression shifting from anger to something resembling awe. "Shui Ling," he said quietly, "you are extraordinary." I shook my head, rising to my feet. "I am just doing what needs to be done. This is only the beginning, husband. The Liu family will not stop just because we have caught one spy. They will find other ways to attack us. Then we will be ready," he said. "We will expose them, one piece at a time." Later that evening, we gathered in old Madame Shui's private chambers. The household had been in an uproar for hours, guards being dispatched, documents being seized, confessions being taken. The old woman sat in her armchair, her face drawn and tired, a cup of cold tea untouched beside her. "So," she said heavily, "my own household has been compromised for years. My own trusted maid was a traitor. My son is in debt to criminals. My daughter has been plotting against her sister-in-law. What has this family become?" "A family in transition," I said quietly. "We have uncovered the rot. Now we can begin to heal." Old Madame Shui looked at me, her eyes glistening. "I owe you an apology, Shui Ling. When you first came to this household, I thought you were too quiet, too meek. I thought you were a burden, a liability. But you are the strongest person among us. You have seen what none of us could see, and you have acted where none of us dared." "I only did what was right," I said. "And I will continue to do so, for as long as I am part of this family." She reached out and took my hand, squeezing it gently. "Then you have my full support. Whatever you need, whatever you ask, it is yours." I bowed my head, accepting the gift. In my past life, I had never received such acknowledgement. I had been invisible, powerless, disposable. Now I was the linchpin around which this family's survival revolved. But I knew the battle was not over. There were still debts to be paid, enemies to be vanquished, and a sister-in-law who was plotting her revenge from her sickbed. Lin Yuyen had been silent for days, but I knew her silence was not surrender. It was the calm before the storm. As I walked back to my quarters, the night air cool against my skin, I thought about what lay ahead. The Lu family would retaliate. Lin Yuyen would try again. And somewhere, perhaps, there were other enemies I had not yet uncovered. Other spies, other traitors, other secrets waiting to be unearthed, but I was ready. I had lived through this once before. I had seen the end of my story, and I had refused to accept it. Now I was writing my own narrative, and I would not stop until I reached the final page. The moon hung high above the garden, casting silver light on the lotus pond. The hairpin was still at the bottom, lost to the murky depths, but I did not mourn it. I had lost so much more in my first life. In this one, I was determined to keep everything I had fought for. The silence in the household lasted exactly 4 days. On the 5th morning, Lin Yuyen emerged from her chambers, like a ghost returning from the dead. I heard about it from Chunhua, who came running to my quarters with wide eyes and a trembling voice. "Young mistress, she is up.
She is dressed.
She is at the breakfast table with old madam and the young master. She looks different." I set down my hairbrush and studied my reflection in the bronze mirror. "Different how pale," Chunhua said, struggling to find the words. "Thinner. Her eyes are hollow. But she is smiling. She is being very sweet, very polite. She apologized to old madam for her behavior. She said she has been ill, and her mind was clouded. She said she wants to make amends." I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. The apology was a performance. The hollow eyes were real. She had been humiliated, exposed, isolated. But the smile was a weapon, honed and polished during her days of confinement. She had spent those days not reflecting on her mistakes, but planning her next move. I rose from my vanity and walked to the dining hall. As I entered, I saw her seated at the table, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her head bowed in a posture of humility. She was wearing a simple dress of pale blue, unadorned, and her hair was pulled back without any jewelry. She looked like a penitent, a sinner seeking forgiveness. "Shui Ling," she said as I approached, her voice soft and tremulous. "Sister-in-law, I am so glad you are here. I wanted to apologize to you. In front of everyone. What I did was unforgivable. I was cruel, jealous, and petty. I allowed my anger to cloud my judgment, and I tried to destroy you. I am deeply ashamed." I stopped a few feet away from her, studying her face. The words were perfect. The delivery was flawless. She had rehearsed this speech, probably dozens of times, until she could say it without flinching. The hollow eyes were a nice touch. They made her look genuinely broken. "I accept your apology," I said carefully. "I hope we can move forward as a family." She rose from her seat and walked toward me, her step slow and unsteady. She reached out and took my hands in hers, her grip cold and clammy. "Thank you," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "You are so generous. I do not deserve your forgiveness. But I promise you, from this day forward, I will be a better sister to you. I will support you. I will protect you. I will never again try to harm you." I looked into her eyes and saw it. Not repentance, not genuine sorrow, but a cold, calculating hatred so deep it had calcified into something inhuman. This woman would never forgive me. She would never stop trying to destroy me. The apology was a mask, and beneath it was a monster. "You are forgiven," I said, returning her smile. "Let us put the past behind us." She released my hands and returned to her seat, her shoulders sagging with what looked like relief. Shui Yuan watched the exchange with narrowed eyes, his jaw tight. He did not believe her act either, I realized. He was learning. Breakfast proceeded in an uneasy pace. Lin Yuyan was the picture of contrition, serving tea to her mother, complimenting her brother on his handling of the family business, even thanking me for my kindness. The servants who had witnessed her previous outbursts exchanged bewildered glances. Could the young mistress have truly changed, or was this just another act? When the meal was over, old Madame Shui dismissed us with a weary wave. "Yuyan, I am glad to see you have come to your senses," she said. "I hope this new beginning will bring peace to our household." "It will, mother," Lin Yuyan said, her voice steady. "I promise." I returned to my quarters with Chun Hua, my mind racing. The performance had been too perfect, too rehearsed. Lin Yuyan was not the type to surrender gracefully. She was the type to strike when no one was looking. "Young mistress," Chun Hua whispered as we walked. "Do you believe her?" "No," I said bluntly. "I believe she is dangerous. More dangerous than before. Because now she knows what I am capable of. She will not try the same tricks again. She will find new ones. Subtler ones." "What should we do?" "We watch," I said. "We wait. And we prepare." Over the next few days, Lin Yuyan was a model of good behavior. She helped her mother with household accounts. She visited Lin Wei in his sick room, bringing him broth and reading to him. She even organized a small gathering for the servants, thanking them for their patience during her illness. The household began to relax, to believe that the crisis had passed. Even old Madame Shui seemed to soften toward her daughter, speaking of her with fondness. But I did not relax. I kept Chun Hua on watch, and I started gathering more information. I had known Lin Yuyan for years in my past life. I knew her weaknesses, her secrets, her patterns. And I knew that when she was quiet, she was plotting to. One afternoon, I was in the garden, pruning a rose bush that had become overgrown, when Lin Yuyan appeared at the end of the path. She was walking slowly, her hands clasped behind her back, her face serene. She approached me with a gentle smile. "Sister-in-law, you have a green thumb," she said, gesturing to the roses. "These are beautiful." I set down my shears and smiled back. "Thank you. I find gardening calming. It helps me think."
"May I join you?" she asked.
"I would like to talk, woman to woman." I hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded. "Of course." We walked together through the garden, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the flower beds. Lin Yuyan was silent at first, but I could feel her tension, the effort it took her to maintain this facade of serenity. "I know you do not trust me," she finally said. "And I do not blame you. I have given you no reason to trust me. But I want you to know that I truly am sorry. I was consumed by jealousy. I saw you as a rival, a threat to my place in this family. But I was wrong. You have been nothing but kind and patient, and I repaid your kindness with cruelty." I said nothing, letting her speak. She needed to say these words to establish her narrative of repentance. I knew that every word was rehearsed, every pause calculated. But I let her continue. "There is something I want to tell you," she said, lowering her voice. "Something I have never told anyone. It is about my brother." I stiffened, but kept my expression neutral. "What about him?" "Lin Wei is not the only one with secrets," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. My brother, Shui Yuan, has been keeping something from you. Something I think you should know. I felt a chill run down my spine. What was she doing? Was she trying to sow discord between me and my husband, or was she telling the truth? I have seen letters, Lin Yuyan continued. Letters from a woman in the capital. A woman named Lady May. She writes to him often. He hides her letters in his study, in a locked drawer.
I have seen them.
I know what they say. I kept my face calm, but my heart was pounding. In my past life, I had known nothing about a Lady May. There had been no letters, no affairs, no betrayals of that nature. Was this a lie, designed to make me suspect my husband? Or was it a truth I had been blind to? Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice carefully neutral. If you wanted to destroy my marriage, this is a strange way to do it. I am telling you because I want to make amends, she said, her eyes wide and earnest. I thought you should know the truth. If you do not believe me, you can find the letters yourself. The key to the drawer is hidden in his brush holder. I studied her face, searching for the lie. Her expression was open, honest, almost pleading. She was a master of deception, but I had spent years learning to read her. There was something in her eyes, a flicker of triumph, hidden beneath the sorrow. I smiled and reached out to touch her arm. Thank you for telling me, I said gently. I will look into it. She smiled back, and for a moment, we looked like two sisters sharing a confidence. But I knew what she was doing. She was trying to distract me, to make me doubt my husband, to create chaos in my marriage. The letters might not exist at all. Or if they did, they might be something innocent, business correspondence perhaps, or letters from a relative, but I could not ignore the possibility. If Lin Yuyan had learned a new truth from another source, a truth I had not known in my past life, then I needed to uncover it. I had already changed the timeline by exposing her early. Perhaps other things had changed as well. That evening, I found myself in Shui Yuan's study. He was at dinner with his mother, giving me a brief window of opportunity. I moved quietly to his desk, my hands trembling slightly. The brush holder was on the corner, filled with ink-stained brushes and a few spare sticks of ink. I reached inside and felt around until my fingers touched a small metal key. I hesitated. Was I really going to do this if I opened that drawer and found evidence of betrayal? What would I do? Would I confront him? Would I forgive him? Or would I keep the knowledge to myself? Waiting for the right moment to use it, I unlocked the drawer and pulled it open. Inside was a stack of letters, tied with a red silk ribbon. I untied the ribbon and unfolded the top letter. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, and the salutation made my heart stop. Dearest Yuan, it began. I think of you every day. The distance between us feels unbearable, but I know you are doing what is best for our future. I will wait for you, as long as it takes. Yours always, May. I read the letter 3 times, my mind struggling to process the words. Then I read the next one, and the next. Each letter was more intimate than the last. Declarations of love, promises of reunions, references to secret meetings that had taken place before my marriage. The letters dated back 3 years, to the time when Shui Yuan and I were betrothed. I felt a cold numbness spread through my limbs. This was real. This was not a lie. My husband had been carrying on a relationship with another woman for years, hiding it from me, hiding it from everyone. And now Lin Yuyan had handed me the evidence, not out of kindness, but out of malice. She wanted me to confront him, to create a scandal, to tear my marriage apart. I folded the letters carefully, retied the ribbon, and placed them back in the drawer. I locked it and slid the key back into the brush holder. Then I sat down in the chair across from his desk and waited. When Shui Yuan returned to the study, he found me sitting in the darkness, my hands folded in my lap. He lit a lamp and started when he saw me. Shuiling, what are you doing here? Is something wrong? I looked up at him, my face unreadable. Who is Lady May? His face went pale. The blood drained from his cheeks, so quickly that I thought he might faint. He took a step back, then another, as if he were trying to escape my gaze. How do you know that name? He asked, his voice hoarse. I found the letters, I said calmly. In your locked drawer. You hid them well, but not well enough. He stared at me, his expression a mixture of guilt and desperation. Shui Ling, please. Let me explain. I am listening, I said. Explain. He walked to his desk and sat down heavily, burying his face in his hands.
For a long moment he said nothing.
Then he looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed. Lady May she was the woman I loved. Before I met you, we were engaged to be married, but my mother refused to allow the match. May's family was of lower status, and my mother was determined that I should marry someone from a better family. She arranged my betrothal to you, and I was forced to break off my engagement with May. And yet you kept her letters, I said. You kept them hidden, and you kept them close. Why, I could not bear to let her go, he admitted. I know it was wrong. I know I should have burned them, forgotten her, moved on. But I could not. Every time I tried, I felt like I was betraying her all over again. Betraying her? I repeated, my voice flat. What about betraying me? You married me, Shui Yuan. You made vows to me. And all the while, you were holding on to letters from another woman, dreaming of a life you could not have. He looked at me, and I saw something I had never seen before, genuine shame. I was a coward, he said. I was weak. I thought if I kept the letters, I could keep the memories, and I could pretend that I had not lost everything that mattered. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. Does she still write to you? I asked. Are you still in contact? No, he said quickly. Not for over a year. She stopped writing when she learned I was married. I have not responded to any of her letters since our wedding. They are just memories, tokens of a past that I should have let go. I stood up and walked to the window, my back to him. I could feel his eyes on me, waiting for my reaction. In my past life, I would have wept. I would have screamed. I would have accused him of betrayal and demanded he destroy the letters immediately. But that Shui Ling was gone. This Shui Ling was colder, harder, more calculating. Your sister gave me the key, I said quietly. She wanted me to find the letters. She wanted me to confront you. She is trying to destroy our marriage, to create chaos so she can regain control. Shui Yuan rose to his feet, his face darkening. Lin Yuyan. Of course. She has been playing this game all along. Yes, I said, turning to face him. But I am not going to play her game. I am not going to confront you in public. I am not going to demand a divorce. I am going to tell you this once, and I will never speak of it again. He waited, his breath held. I do not care about Lady May, I said. I do not care about the past. I care about the present. I care about the future. I am your wife, and I will do my duty, but I will not be made a fool of. If you ever meet with Lady May, if you ever write to her again, I will know. And I will destroy both of you. He stared at me, his mouth open. Shui Ling, I am not finished, I interrupted, my voice sharp. Your sister gave me these letters because she thought they would break me. She thought I would fall apart, that I would become weak and pathetic, that I would make a scene and destroy everything you have built. I am not going to do that. I am going to turn this against her. How? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lianhua's confession is complete, I said. She has named the Liu family's second son, Liu Han, as the mastermind behind the espionage. But she has also named your sister as a collaborator. Shui Yuan's eyes widened. Yuyan, she was working with the Liu family, not directly, I said. But she knew about Lianhua's activities. She used the information Lianhua provided to her own ends. When Lianhua reported on your business dealings, your sister passed that information to the Liu family in exchange for favors, money, influence, and protection. She has been profiting from your family's losses for years. How do you know this? Lianhua confessed to it, I said. She told me everything. Your sister was not just a petty schemer. She was a traitor to this household, a collaborator with your family's worst enemies. And now we have the evidence to prove it. Shui Yuan sank back into his chair, his face pale with shock. I cannot believe it, he murmured. I always knew she was manipulative, but this is treason. It is, I agreed. And when we expose her, she will be destroyed. But we need to do it carefully. We cannot simply accuse her without preparation. She will deny everything. She will try to twist the story, to make herself the victim. We need to trap her, to force her to confess in front of everyone. Like you did with Lin Wei, he said, understanding dawning. Exactly, I said. She underestimated me once. She will not make that mistake again. So we need to be smarter. We need to wait for the right moment. 2 days later, Lin Yuyan organized a gathering in the main hall to celebrate her brother's recovery. Lin Wei was still limping, but he was able to walk with the aid of a cane, and his mother had decided to mark the occasion with a small feast. The entire household was invited, servants, relatives, even a few visiting friends. I watched from my seat as Lin Yuyan moved through the crowd, playing the hostess with practiced grace. She was wearing a beautiful dress of embroidered silk, her hair arranged in an elaborate style, her cheeks flushed with the warmth of the celebration. She looked like a woman in her element, a woman who had everything under control. I waited until the meal was underway, until the wine had loosened tongues and the laughter had grown loud. Then I rose from my seat and raised my cup. I would like to propose a toast, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. To my sister-in-law, Lin Yuyan, who has shown such grace and humility in the face of adversity. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to me. Lin Yuyan smiled, but I saw the wariness in her eyes. She knew I was not finished. We have all witnessed her transformation. I continued. She has apologized for her past mistakes. She has worked hard to regain our trust. But there is one thing she has not confessed to. Something that goes beyond petty jealousy and mean-spirited schemes. Lin Yuyan's smile faltered. Sister-in-law, what are you talking about? I turned to face her fully. I am talking about your collaboration with the Liu family. I am talking about the information you passed to them, the secrets you sold, the profits you made from your own family suffering. The room erupted into chaos. Gasps, whispers, a few shouted denials. Lin Yuyan's face went white, then red, then white again. How dare you, she screamed, rising to her feet. You have no proof. This is slander. Actually, I said calmly, I do have proof. I have Lianhua's written confession. I have the letters you sent to Lu Han, detailing every piece of information you gleaned from this household. I have the accounts of the merchants you bribed, the deals you sabotaged, the traders you stole. Would you like me to present them here? In front of everyone, Lin Yuyan stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. She looked around the room, searching for support, but no one met her gaze. Shui Yuan was stone-faced. Old Madame Shui was weeping. Lin Wei had his head bowed, his face hidden. You are a monster, she whispered, her voice trembling with rage. You have destroyed me. I did not destroy you, I said. You destroyed yourself, one lie at a time. I only made sure everyone could see the truth. She let out a scream of pure, unbridled fury and lunged at me. But before she could reach me, Shui Yuan stepped between us, catching her by the arms and forcing her back. That is enough, he said, his voice like ice. You have done enough damage, sister. I will have you confined to your quarters until we decide what to do with you. If you resist, I will have you placed under guard. She struggled against him, her eyes wild with hatred. You will regret this, she hissed at me. You will all regret this. I will make sure you pay for what you have done. I have already paid, I said softly. I paid for 10 years of your cruelty, your manipulation, your lies. But this time, you are the one who will pay the price. She was dragged from the hall, still screaming and struggling. The guests watched in stunned silence, their eyes wide with shock. Old Madame Shui rose from her seat, her face gray with exhaustion. I am sorry, she said, her voice barely audible. I am so sorry, everyone. Please forgive this disgrace. The guests filed out quickly, too embarrassed to stay. The servants dispersed, their faces pale with fear. And I was left standing in the center of the hall, my heart pounding, my hands trembling. Shui Yuan came to stand beside me. Are you all right? He asked softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I am so sorry for everything, he said. I should have seen what she was doing years ago. I should have protected you from her. None of that matters now, I said. What matters is that she is exposed. She cannot hurt anyone anymore. But even as I said the words, I knew they were not entirely true. Lin Yuan was not finished. She would find a way to retaliate, to hurt me, to destroy everything I had built. I had won this battle, but the war was far from over. As I walked back to my quarters, the night air cool against my skin, I thought about the future. There were still debts to be paid, enemies to be vanquished, and a husband who had lied to me. But I was stronger now. I was more prepared. And I would not stop until I had ensured my own survival. The days that followed Lin Yuan's public exposure were filled with a strange, uneasy quiet. She had been confined to the eastern wing of the compound, a set of rooms that had once belonged to her grandmother. Guards were posted at the doors, and her meals were brought by servants who were forbidden to speak to her. Old Madame Shui had ordered that no one visit her daughter, no one bring her news, no one offer her comfort. She was to be left alone with her shame, to contemplate the wreckage she had made of her life. But I knew better than to think that shame would change her. Shame did not change women like Lin Yuan. It only made them more dangerous. She is plotting something, Chunhua said to me one afternoon, her voice low and urgent. I have seen her through the window. She paces her room for hours. She writes letters, then burns them. She mutters to herself. It is not the behavior of a woman who has given up. I set down my embroidery and looked at my maid. Chunhua had become my eyes and ears in the household, my most trusted ally. She moved through the corridors with a quiet efficiency, gathering information, watching for signs of trouble. I could not have survived this without her. Keep watching, I said. But be careful. She may try to use you as a messenger. If she asks you to deliver a letter or pass a message to anyone outside the household, refuse. And report to me immediately. Chunhua nodded. I will, young mistress. But what if she finds another way? What if she bribes one of the guards? Then we will catch her, I said grimly. And we will make sure she has no escape. 2 weeks passed. The household slowly began to heal. Old Madame Shui, though still grieving the loss of her daughter's reputation, began to take more interest in the management of the household. She consulted me on decisions about the staff, the finances, the social obligations that came with our position. She even began to treat me with a warmth that she had never shown before. The household runs more smoothly with you at my side, she said one evening, as we reviewed the accounts together. You have a head for numbers, Shui Ling. I should have recognized that years ago. I smiled and bowed my head. Thank you, mother. I am happy to help. Shui Yuan, too, had changed. He had stopped avoiding me, stopped keeping his distance. He sought me out for conversations, asked my opinion on business matters, even took me on walks through the garden. He had not mentioned Lady May again, and I had not pressed him. The letters were still in his locked drawer, but I had made my position clear. If he ever betrayed me again, I would destroy him. But there was something else on his mind, something he was struggling to say. I could see it in the way he hesitated before speaking, the way his eyes would drift away from mine when we talked. He was keeping something from me, something that weighed heavily on his conscience. One night, as we sat together in the courtyard, watching the moon rise over the garden, he finally spoke. Shui Ling, there is something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. I turned to face him, my heart beating faster. What is it? He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for a blow. It is about your father. I felt a jolt of cold surprise. My father had been a poor scholar, disgraced and impoverished. He had died when I was a child, leaving me an orphan with nothing to my name. My marriage to Shui Yuan had been arranged by my mother's family, who had hoped to elevate their status through the alliance. I had never known much about my father's disgrace, only that it had been severe enough to destroy his career and his health. What about my father? I asked carefully. Before he died, Shui Yuan said slowly. He was involved in something. Something that made him enemies. Powerful enemies. They were the ones who brought him down, who destroyed his reputation and ruined his life. I felt a chill run down my spine. Who were these enemies? Your sister-in-law, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Lin Yuan. I stared at him, my mind struggling to process his words. What are you saying? She was a child when my father died. She could not have. She did not act alone, he interrupted. But she was the instrument. The Liu family wanted to destroy your father. He had discovered something about their business dealings, something they wanted to keep hidden. He threatened to expose them. So they found a way to discredit him. They used Lin Yuyan's family connections to spread rumors, to falsify evidence, to turn the Scholars Guild against him. Your father was destroyed, and Lin Yuyan was rewarded with influence and money. I felt the world tilt around me. All these years, I had believed my father's disgrace was a simple matter of misfortune. I had never suspected that my own sister-in-law had been behind it. The woman who had tormented me, who had tried to destroy me, had also destroyed my father. How do you know this? I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. Why did you never tell me? I only learned it recently, he admitted. When I was investigating Lin Wei's debts, I discovered the connection. The merchant Chen, the one Wei owes money to, was also involved in your father's downfall. He was paid by the Liu family to spread the rumors. I confronted him, and he confessed everything. I rose to my feet, my hands clenched into fists. You knew, I said, my voice dangerously low. You knew that your sister destroyed my father, and you said nothing. I was waiting for the right time, he said, his voice pleading. I wanted to find a way to make it right. I wanted to clear your father's name, to expose the Liu family's crimes, to bring your sister-in-law to justice. But I could not do it without proof. Now I have the proof, and I will use it. I turned away from him, my heart pounding with a fury I could barely contain. All this time, I had been fighting Lin Yuyan for my own survival, for my reputation, for my place in this family. But now I was fighting for something more. I was fighting for justice for my father. Give me the proof, I said, my voice flat. I want to see it. He led me to his study and unlocked a new drawer, one I had not discovered before. Inside was a stack of documents, letters, contracts, sworn testimonies. I read through them quickly, my eyes scanning the damning evidence. The Liu family had paid merchants to spread lies about my father. They had bribed officials to falsify records. They had used Lin Yuyan's family connections to ensure that no one would believe his protestations of innocence. I looked up from the documents, my eyes blazing. This is enough to destroy them. All of them. The Liu family, Lin Yuyan, everyone involved. It is, Shui Yuan agreed. But we need to be careful. The Liu family has allies in high places. If we move too quickly, they will try to cover their tracks. We need to gather more witnesses, more evidence. We need to make sure that when we strike, it is decisive. I nodded slowly, my mind already racing ahead. We will need help. Your mother's support, the backing of the clan elders, perhaps even the magistrate. If we can prove that the Liu family was engaged in a conspiracy to destroy an innocent man, their influence will crumble. There is more, Shui Yuan said, his voice hesitating. Your father was not the only victim. There were others. Scholars, merchants, officials who had crossed the Liu family. They were all destroyed in similar ways. If we can find them, if we can bring them forward, we will have an army of witnesses. I stared at him, a new understanding dawning. This is not just about revenge, I said slowly. This is about justice. For my father, for all the people who suffered because of the Liu family's greed. It is, he agreed. And I will help you. I will stand by your side no matter what. For the first time, I looked at my husband and saw not a stranger, not a liar, but an ally. He had kept secrets from me, yes. He had been weak and cowardly, but he was trying to make amends. And in this fight, I needed all the allies I could get. Over the next week, we worked together to build our case. Shui Yuan reached out to the scholars who had been wronged by the Liu family, gathering their testimonies. I wrote letters to the clan elders, requesting their support. Chanhua kept watch on Lin Yuyan, making sure she could not interfere. But Lin Yuyan was not the only enemy I had to worry about. The Liu family, hearing rumors of our investigation, began to move against us. They sent threatening letters. They bribed our servants. They even attempted to have Shui Yuan arrested on trumped-up charges of tax evasion. Shui Yuan was released after a day in the magistrate's custody, but the message was clear. The Liu family was fighting back. And they were not playing fair. We need to strike now, I said to Shui Yuan as we sat together in his study, before they can do any more damage. He nodded, his face grim. I have already spoken to the magistrate. He is sympathetic to our cause, but he needs more evidence before he can act. We need to bring the Liu family's crimes into the open in a way that cannot be ignored. Then we will expose them publicly, I said. At the autumn festival, everyone will be there, the clan elders, the officials, the influential families. We will present our evidence in front of everyone, and we will force them to act. Are you sure? He asked, his voice filled with concern. It will be dangerous. The Liu family will do anything to stop you. Let them try, I said fiercely. I am not afraid of them. I am not afraid of anyone. Not anymore. The autumn festival was 3 days away. In that time, we prepared relentlessly. I gathered the testimonies into a single document, a formal petition to the magistrate. Shui Yuan arranged for a dozen witnesses to be present at the festival, ready to speak on our behalf. Chen Hua made sure that every detail was perfect, but on the day before the festival, a new crisis emerged. Lin Yuyan, who had been locked in her rooms for weeks, managed to escape. She had bribed a guard, slipped out of the eastern wing, and disappeared into the city. She was gone, and no one knew where she was. She has gone to the Liu family, I said to Shui Yuan, my voice cold with certainty. She is going to warn them. She is going to try to stop us. Then we must move faster, he said. We cannot wait for the festival. We must act now. But I shook my head.
No.
The festival is still our best chance. The Liu family will be expecting us to come early. They will be prepared. If we stick to the original plan, we can catch them off guard. Shui Yuan looked at me with a mixture of admiration and concern. You are willing to take that risk. I am willing to take any risk, I said. For my father. For justice. For everything they have taken from me. The festival began at noon. The main square was filled with people, families, merchants, officials, scholars. The air was thick with the smell of roasted chestnuts and incense. Lanterns hung from every building, and the sound of music drifted through the crowds. I stood on a platform near the center of the square, surrounded by the clan elders and the magistrate. Shui Yuan was at my side, his face pale but determined. The witnesses were gathered behind us, ready to speak. I took a deep breath and raised my voice. People of this city, I come before you today to expose a conspiracy. A conspiracy that has been hidden for years. A conspiracy that has destroyed innocent lives and enriched the wicked. The crowd fell silent. All eyes turned to me. I speak of the Liu family. I continued. I speak of their crimes against my father, Shui Yuan, a scholar of good standing who was destroyed by their lies. I speak of their crimes against dozens of other innocent people. And I speak of my sister-in-law, Lin Yuyan, who was their willing accomplice. The Liu family, seated in a prominent position on the other side of the square, rose to their feet in outrage. This is slander.
Liu han hoted.
She has no proof. I have proof, I said, holding up the documents. I have testimonies. I have witnesses. And I have the courage to speak the truth, no matter the cost. I began to read from the documents, listing the Liu family's crimes one by one. The crowd listened in stunned silence. The magistrate's face grew darker with each revelation. The Liu family's protests grew weaker, more desperate. And then, from the back of the crowd, a voice rang out. She is lying. Lin Yuyan pushed through the crowd, her face twisted with fury. She was disheveled, her clothes torn, her hair wild. She looked like a madwoman. She is lying, she screamed again. Everything she says is a lie. She is trying to destroy my family. I looked at her with pity. Lin Yuyan, you are the one who has destroyed your family. You are the one who betrayed them to the Liu family. You are the one who helped them destroy my father. And now you will face justice. Justice, she laughed, a wild, desperate sound. There is no justice. There is only power. And I will have more power than you, Shui Ling. I will destroy you, just as I destroyed your father. She pulled a knife from her sleeve and lunged at me. The crowd screamed. Shui Yuan moved to intercept her, but He was too far away. I saw the knife flash in the sunlight, felt the air shift as it came toward me, and then, out of nowhere, Chunhua threw herself in front of me. The knife struck her shoulder, and she crumpled to the ground. "No!" I screamed, dropping to my knees beside her. "Chunhua!" Lin Yuyan was seized by the guards and dragged away. Shui Yuan rushed to my side, his face white with shock. "Is she all right?" I pressed my hands against Chunhua's wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "She needs a physician. Quickly!" Chunhua looked up at me, her face pale, but her eyes clear. "I told you, young mistress," she whispered. "I would die for you." "You are not going to die," I said fiercely. "You're going to live. You are going to be by my side for many years to come." The physician arrived within minutes. Chunhua was carried to a nearby building, where her wound was treated. The knife had struck her shoulder, missing any vital organs. She would recover, the physician said, but she would bear a scar. I sat beside her bed, holding her hand, tears streaming down my face. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for saving my life." "I would do it again," she said weakly. "You are my mistress. You are my friend. I would do anything for you." That night, I stood in the courtyard, looking up at the stars. The festival had been abandoned, but the city was still buzzing with the news of the Liu family's crimes. The magistrate had ordered the arrest of Liu Han and his associates. Lin Yuyan had been taken to the city prison, awaiting trial for attempted murder. My father's name was cleared. The Scholars Guild had issued a formal apology, posthumously restoring his reputation. The Liu family's trading rights had been revoked. Justice had been done, but I did not feel triumphant. I felt exhausted, empty, hollowed out by the years of struggle. I had fought so hard, sacrificed so much. And now, at the end of it all, I was left with a strange, aching sadness. Shui Yuan came to stand beside me. "You should rest," he said gently. "I cannot rest," I said. "Every time I close my eyes, I see Chunhua's face. I see the knife. I see Lin Yuyan's eyes." "She cannot hurt you anymore," he said. "She is in prison. She will be punished for her crimes." I shook my head. It is not just about Lin Yuyan. It is about everything. All the years of suffering, all the lies, all the pain. I feel like I've been carrying a mountain on my shoulders, and now that it is finally gone, I do not know how to stand without it. He reached out and took my hand. "Then let me help you stand. Let me help you carry the weight. You are not alone, Shui Ling. You will never be alone again." I looked at him, this man who had been a stranger, a liar, a coward. But he had also been my ally, my defender, my partner. He had stood by me when it mattered most. And perhaps, in time, he could be something more. "I am tired," I admitted. "So tired." "Then rest," he said. "I will be here when you wake." The trial of Lin Yuyan was set for the first day of winter. The magistrate had agreed to hear the case in open court, a rare concession that would allow the public to witness the downfall of one of the city's most prominent families. Rumors swept through the streets like wildfire. Some said she would be executed. Others whispered that she would be exiled to the northern border, never to return. But no one knew for certain, least of all me. Chunhua had recovered from her wound, though she still carried her arm in a sling. She refused to stay in bed, insisting that she was needed at my side. I had tried to convince her to rest, but she was stubborn, more stubborn than I had ever realized. "You saved my life," I said to her one morning, as I helped her adjust her sling. "The least I can do is make sure you are comfortable." "You have done more than enough, young mistress," she said, her voice firm. "I am not going to sit by while you face this trial alone. I will be in the courtroom. I will watch her face when they pass judgment." "You are a fierce one, Chunhua," I said, smiling despite myself. "I am lucky to have you." "You are the lucky one," she laughed, a bright, unguarded sound that I had not heard from her in weeks. "Young mistress, I am the luckiest maid in the entire city. I serve a mistress who treats me like a sister, who fights for me, who saves me from disgrace. I would follow you to the ends of the earth." I squeezed her hand, my heart full. In my past life, I had been alone. I had no allies, no friends, no one to turn to. Now I had Chunhua. I had Shui Yuan. I had my mother-in-law. I was no longer the invisible wife, the forgotten daughter-in-law. I had carved a place for myself, and I was determined to keep it. The day of the trial arrived, cold and gray. Snow had fallen overnight, blanketing the city in a thin layer of white. I dressed in my finest robes, a deep blue silk embroidered with silver thread, and pinned my hair with the jade hairpin Shui Yuan had given me. It was a small gesture, but it reminded me of how far I had come. Shui Yuan met me at the gate. He was dressed in his formal robes, his face serious. "Are you ready?" he asked. I nodded. "I have been ready for this my entire life." We traveled to the courthouse in a sedan chair, the streets lined with curious onlookers. The trial of Lin Yuyan had become a spectacle, the talk of the city. Everyone wanted to see the woman who had schemed and plotted, who had nearly murdered her own sister-in-law, face justice. The courtroom was packed. The magistrate sat on a raised dais, his face stern and impartial. The Liu family's representatives were seated to one side, their faces pale and drawn. Lin Yuyan stood in the center of the room, her hands bound in chains, her hair disheveled, her eyes hollow. She looked like a ghost of her former self. I took my seat in the front row, Shui Yuan beside me. Chunhua stood behind us, her eyes fixed on Lin Yuyan. I could feel the tension in the air, the anticipation of a verdict that would change everything. The magistrate began the proceedings, reading out the charges. Conspiracy, treason, attempted murder. Each charge was met with a murmur from the crowd. Lin Yuyan stood silently, her head bowed, offering no defense. "Lin Yuyan," the magistrate said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You've been accused of grievous crimes against the Shui family and the citizens of this city. How do you plead?" She raised her head, and for a moment, I saw a flash of the old fire in her eyes. "I plead not guilty," she said, her voice steady. "I have been framed. My sister-in-law is the true criminal. She manipulated everyone, turned them against me, destroyed my reputation. I am the victim here." The crowd stirred. I felt a surge of anger, but I kept my composure. I had expected this. She would fight to the end, even when the evidence was overwhelming. The magistrate turned to me. "Shui Ling, you have brought these charges against your sister-in-law. You may present your evidence." I rose from my seat and walked to the center of the room. I carried the documents I had gathered, the testimonies I had collected. I began to speak, my voice clear and steady. "Your Honor, I present to you the written confession of Lianhua, the senior maid of the Shui household. She has admitted to passing information to the Liu family for years, and she has named Lin Yuyan as her co-conspirator. I also present the letters Lin Yuyan wrote to Liu Han, detailing the information she provided. And I present the testimonies of a dozen witnesses, all of whom can attest to her crimes." I handed the documents to the magistrate, who read through them carefully. His face grew darker with each page. "This is compelling evidence," he said. "Lin Yuyan, do you have anything to say in your defense?" She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Those documents are forged. The witnesses are lying. She paid them to testify against me. She has been planning this for months, since the moment I first challenged her. She is not a victim. She is a viper." I turned to face her. "You tried to kill me, Lin Yuyan. You pulled a knife on me in front of hundreds of people. Chunhua has the scar to prove it. Are you going to claim that was also a lie?" She glared at me, her eyes burning with hatred. "You deserved it. You ruined my life. You took everything from me. My family, my reputation, my future. I had nothing left to lose." The magistrate slammed his gavel on the table. "Order in the court. Lin Yuyan, you are not helping your case. If you continue to make threats, I will have you gagged." She fell silent, but her eyes never left mine. I could feel the weight of her hatred, the depth of her obsession. She would never forgive me. She would never stop hating me. Even if she was imprisoned, even if she was executed, her hatred would live on. The trial continued for 2 more hours. Witness after witness testified against Lin Yuyan. Lianhua was brought in, her face pale and tear-streaked, and she repeated her confession. The merchant testified about the Liu family's role in my father's downfall. The Scholars Guild presented a formal statement, acknowledging that they had been deceived. Finally, the magistrate called for a recess. The court fell silent as he reviewed the evidence. I sat in my seat, my hands clasped tightly in my lap, waiting. When the magistrate returned, his face was grim. Lin Yuyan, based on the evidence presented, I find you guilty of all charges. You are sentenced to exile to the northern border, where you will spend the rest of your life in servitude. Your family's properties will be seized, and your name will be struck from the clan records. This court is adjourned. The crowd erupted into cheers and gasps. Lin Yuyan's face went white, then red, then white again. She opened her mouth to speak, but the guards were already dragging her away. I watched her go, my heart heavy. I had won. Justice had been served, but I did not feel triumphant. I felt hollowed after the trial. Shui Yuan and I returned to the compound in silence. Old Madame Shui was waiting for us in the main hall, her face drawn and tired. She had not attended the trial, unable to bear watching her daughter's humiliation. "Is it done?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is done," Shui Yuan said. "She has been sentenced to exile. She will never return." Old Madame Shui nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I have lost a daughter today, but I have gained something too. I have gained the truth. And the truth, painful as it is better than a lifetime of lies." She turned to me, her expression softening. "Shui Ling, I want to thank you. You have shown me what I was too blind to see. My daughter was a poison in this household, and I allowed her to spread her venom for years. You have saved this family from destruction." "Mother, I only did what was right," I said. I could not stand by while she destroyed everything we had built. "You are a remarkable woman," she said, taking my hands in hers. "I am proud to call you my daughter." I felt tears prick in my eyes. In my past life, I had never received such words from my mother-in-law. She had always been distant, cold, critical. Now she was offering me her acceptance, her gratitude, her love. It was more than I had ever hoped for. The weeks that followed were quiet. Lin Yuyan was escorted to the northern border, and the household began to heal. Old Madame Shui threw herself into the management of the family's affairs, determined to rebuild what her daughter had destroyed. Shui Yuan focused on his business, using the Liu family's downfall to expand our trading network. And I continued to oversee the household, making sure that everything ran smoothly. Chuanhua recovered fully, the scar on her shoulder a reminder of her bravery. She became something of a legend among the servants, a symbol of loyalty and courage. I promoted her to senior maid, and she took her new responsibilities seriously. But even as the household healed, I found myself thinking about the future. I had avenged my father. I had cleared my name. I had brought Lin Yuyan to justice. But what came next? I had spent so long fighting that I had forgotten how to live. One evening, Shui Yuan came to my quarters with a bottle of wine. He poured 2 cups and handed one to me. "I thought we could talk," he said, "about the future." I took the cup and sat down beside him. "What about the future? I have been thinking about what comes next," he said. "We have overcome so much. We have survived. But survival is not enough. We need to build something that will last." "What do you suggest?" He reached out and took my hand. "I suggest we start over. I know I have not been the best husband to you. I kept secrets. I was distant. I made mistakes.
But I want to change.
I want to be the husband you deserve." I looked at him, searching his face for any hint of deception. But all I saw was sincerity. He had been a coward, a liar, a fool. But he had also been my ally, my defender, my partner. He had stood by me when it mattered most. "I do not know if I can trust you," I said honestly. "You have hurt me, Shui Yuan. You have kept secrets from me. You have chosen others over me. It will take time to rebuild that trust." "I understand," he said. "I am willing to wait. I am willing to prove myself, day by day, until you believe in me again." I nodded slowly. "Then we will take it one day at a time. And we will see what the future holds." That night, As I lay in bed, I thought about everything that had happened. I had been reborn into a life of pain and struggle, but I had emerged stronger. I had faced my enemies and defeated them. I had uncovered the truth and brought it to light. I had built a new life for myself, a life that was better than the one I had left behind. But I knew that the journey was not over. There were still challenges ahead, still battles to be fought. But I was ready. I was stronger than I had ever been. And I had allies by my side, people who believed in me, people who would fight for me till the future was uncertain, but that was all right. I had faced uncertainty before, and I had survived. I would continue to survive. I would continue to thrive. And I would never let anyone take away everything I had built. I closed my eyes and let the darkness wash over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Winter settled over the city like a heavy blanket, muffling the sounds of the streets and turning the garden into a silent expanse of white. The household had grown quiet in the months since Lin Yuyan's exile, the tension that had once coiled through every corridor slowly unwinding. Old Madame Shui had taken to spending her afternoons in the sunroom, wrapped in furs, sipping tea, and watching the snow fall. She had aged visibly, her hair now fully white, her face lined with grief and relief in equal measure. But she was not broken. None of us were. I found myself standing at the window of my quarters, watching the snow pile up on the branches of the old willow tree. It was the same tree I had hidden behind on the night of my rebirth, the night I had first confronted Lin Yuyan and set everything in motion. So much had changed since then. So much had been lost and gained. Chuanhua entered the room, carrying a tray of steaming tea. She had recovered fully from her wound, though she still favored her shoulder on cold days. She moved with the quiet efficiency of a woman who had found her purpose, her place in the world. "Young mistress, you have been standing there for an hour," she said, setting the tray down. "Your tea will get cold." I smiled and turned away from the window. I was thinking about everything that has happened. "Good thoughts or bad?" she asked, her eyes curious. "Both," I admitted. "But mostly good. We have come a long way, Chunhua." "Indeed we have," she said, pouring the tea. "And we have much to be grateful for. The household is at peace. Old Madam is healthy. The young master is devoted. The business is thriving. What more could we ask for?" I took the cup from her and sipped the tea, letting the warmth spread through me. She was right. We had everything we needed. But there was still something missing, something I could not quite name. Later that day, I went to visit old Madame Shui in the sunroom. She was sitting by the window, a book open in her lap, though she was not reading. She was staring out at the snow, her expression distant. "Mother," I said, taking a seat beside her. "You look troubled. Is something wrong?" She turned to me and smiled, a gentle, weary smile. "I was just thinking about my daughter,
Yuyan."
I know she deserved her punishment. I know she was a danger to this family. But she was still my child, Shui Ling. I cannot simply forget that." I reached out and took her hand. "I understand. I still think about my own father, even though he died years ago. Grief does not follow the rules of justice. It simply is." She squeezed my hand, her eyes glistening. "You are a kind woman, Shui Ling, kinder than I ever gave you credit for. When you first came to this household, I thought you were too quiet, too meek. I thought you would be a burden. But you have proven to be the strongest of all of us." "I had to be strong," I said. "There was no other choice." "There is always a choice," she said softly. "You chose to fight. You chose to survive. You chose to build something better. That is what makes you remarkable." We sat together in silence for a long moment, watching the snow fall. I thought about my father, about the years I had spent grieving his disgrace, his death. I had avenged him, but I had not healed. Perhaps I never would. But that was all right. Some wounds were meant to be carried. Shui Yuan came to visit his mother that evening. He was dressed in his formal robes, his hair neatly combed, his face calm and composed. He had changed so much since the early days of our marriage. He had been a distant, passive man, content to let others make decisions for him. Now he was a leader, a protector, a partner. "Mother, Shui Ling," he said, bowing to us. I have news from the magistrate's office. The Liu family's assets have been fully seized. The trading rights have been transferred to the Shui family. We are now the largest merchant house in the city. Old Madame Shui nodded, a flicker of pride in her eyes. That is good news. Your father would have been proud. I was thinking, Shui Yuan said, turning to me, that we should use some of those new resources to establish a scholarship fund for the children of impoverished scholars. In honor of your father, Shui Ling. I felt my breath catch in my throat. What? A scholarship fund, he repeated, to help young scholars who have fallen on hard times. Your father was a brilliant man, and he was destroyed by lies and corruption. We cannot bring him back, but we can make sure that no one else suffers the same fate. I have already spoken to the Scholars Guild. They are willing to administer the fund on our behalf. I stared at him, tears welling in my eyes. You would do that for my father. I would do anything for you, Shui Ling, he said, his voice soft. You have given me so much. You have shown me what it means to be strong, to be brave, to be honest. I want to honor that. I want to honor you. I rose from my seat and walked to him, taking his hands in mine. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for everything. He pulled me into an embrace, and I let myself be held. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. He was offering me not just his love, but his respect. He was acknowledging the value of my past, the pain of my losses. He was making my father's memory a part of our future. The scholarship fund was established within a month. The Scholars Guild held a ceremony to commemorate its founding, inviting the leading families of the city to attend. I stood at the center of the hall, surrounded by scholars and officials, and spoke about my father. He was a man of integrity, I said, my voice carrying through the hushed room. He was a man of honor. And he was destroyed by those who valued power over truth. We cannot undo the injustice that was done to him, but we can make sure that his legacy lives on. We can make sure that no other scholar is destroyed by lies and corruption. The audience applauded, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had done what I could. I had cleared my father's name. I had built something in his memory. I had made sure that his story would be remembered and that his suffering would not be in vain. After the ceremony, Shui Yuan and I walked through the garden together. The snow had melted, and the first signs of spring were beginning to appear. Tiny green shoots pushed through the damp earth, and the trees were budding with new leaves. Spring is coming, he said, looking up at the sky. A new beginning. It is, I agreed. And I think I am ready for it. He turned to face me, his expression serious. There is something I have been meaning to ask you, Shui Ling. I know I have no right to ask it after everything I have done, but I have to try. What is it? Will you truly be my wife? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Not just in name, but in heart. I know I have failed you in the past. I know I have kept secrets, been distant, made mistakes. But I have changed. I will continue to change. I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I am worthy of you. I looked at him, this man who had been a stranger, a liar, a coward. But he had also been my ally, my defender, my partner. He had stood by me when it mattered most. He had honored my father, respected my strength, fought for my place in the world. And he was asking me to trust him, to love him, to build a future with him. I do not know if I can love you yet, I said honestly. Trust is earned, and I still have much to learn about you. But I am willing to try. I am willing to give you a chance. His face lit up with a smile that I had never seen before. It was not the cold, guarded smile of a man who kept his distance. It was the warm, hopeful smile of a man who had finally found his way home. That is all I ask, he said. That is all I will ever ask. He pulled me into another embrace, and I let myself sink into it. The spring breeze rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of fresh earth and new life. It was a small moment, but it was perfect. It was the beginning of something new. That night, I sat alone in my quarters and thought about my journey. I had been reborn into a life of pain and struggle, but I had emerged stronger. I had faced my enemies and defeated them. I had uncovered the truth and brought it to light. I had built a new life for myself, a life that was better than the one I had left behind. But the most important lesson I had learned was not about revenge or justice. It was about forgiveness. Not forgiveness for Lin Yuyan, she would never deserve that, but forgiveness for myself. For the years I had spent doubting my own worth, for the moments I had let others define me. I had been a victim once, but I was a survivor now. And that was a beautiful thing. I looked at the jade hairpin on my vanity, the one Shui Yuan had given me so many months ago. It was a simple thing, unadorned, but it had become a symbol of everything I had fought for. My place in this family. My identity as a woman of strength and courage. My future, whatever it might hold. Chuanhua entered the room, her face flushed with excitement. Young mistress, you will never believe what I just heard. What is it? I asked, my curiosity piqued. They are planning a spring festival, she said, her eyes shining. The biggest one in years. Every family in the city is going to be there. There will be music, dancing, feasts. Old Madam says we are to host the celebration in our garden. She wants you to oversee the arrangements. I smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile. That is wonderful news. I will begin planning first thing tomorrow. Everyone is talking about you, young mistress, Chunhua said, her voice filled with pride. They say you are the heart of this household. They say you saved the family from ruin. They say you are the strongest woman in the city. I shook my head, laughing softly. I am just a woman who refused to give up. Anyone can do that. Not anyone, she said firmly. Only someone with courage. Only someone with a fire in her soul. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was young, but her eyes were old. They had seen death and rebirth, betrayal and loyalty, hatred and love. They had seen the worst of humanity and the best. And they were not afraid. The spring festival came and went in a blur of color and sound. The garden was transformed into a wonderland of lanterns and flowers, the air filled with the scent of roasted meats and fresh bread. The city's leading families gathered to celebrate, their laughter echoing through the night. Old Madame Shui presided over the festivities, her face glowing with pride. Shui Yuan stood at my side, his hand warm in mine. Chunhua moved through the crowd, her smile bright, her injury long forgotten. I looked out at the sea of faces, the joyful chaos of the celebration. I had come so far from the woman who had woken up on a cold stone path, her heart filled with bitterness and pain. I had built something beautiful out of the wreckage of my past. I had found love, loyalty, purpose. I had found myself. A young girl approached me, her eyes wide with wonder. Are you the Lady Shui? She asked, her voice shy. I am, I said, kneeling down to her level. What is your name? Lily, she said. My mother says you are a hero. She says you fought for justice and won. I laughed softly. I am not a hero, Lily. I am just a woman who refused to give up. And you can be that too. If you ever face something that seems impossible, remember that you are stronger than you know. She nodded solemnly, then ran off to join her friends. I watched her go, a warmth spreading through my chest. It was a small moment, but it was everything. I had not just saved myself. I had inspired others. I had planted seeds of courage that would grow and spread. As the night wore on, I found myself standing at the edge of the garden, away from the crowds. The moon hung high overhead, casting silver light on the lotus pond. The water was still, reflecting the stars like scattered diamonds. Shui Yuan came to stand beside me. Are you all right? He asked. I am perfect, I said. I have everything I ever wanted. He took my hand and raised it to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to my knuckles. You deserve everything, Shui Ling. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure you have it. I looked at him, this man who had once been a stranger, and smiled. I believe you, I said. For the first time, I truly believe you. We stood together in the moonlight, watching the pond ripple softly. The sounds of the festival drifted toward us, distant and warm. I thought about my father, about the pain he had suffered, the injustice he had endured. But I also thought about his legacy, the scholarship fund that would help so many young scholars find their way. He had been destroyed, but his name would live on. His story would be remembered. And I thought about Lin Yuyen, exiled to the northern border, far from everything she had known. I felt no joy in her suffering, no satisfaction in her punishment. I only felt a quiet sadness. She had been consumed by her own hatred, destroyed by her own schemes. In her quest for power, she had lost everything that I thought about my rebirth, the strange and miraculous second chance I had been given. I had used it wisely. I had fought for justice, for survival, for the life I deserved. And I had won. But the victory was not in the battles I had fought. It was in the peace I had found. The peace of knowing who I was, of being true to myself, of building a life filled with love and purpose. The festival continued around me, a symphony of light and sound. I closed my eyes and let it wash over me, this moment of perfect happiness. It had taken so much struggle to reach it, so much pain and loss. But it was worth it. It was all worth it when I opened my eyes. Shui Yuan was looking at me with a tenderness that took my breath away. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I am thinking about the future," I said. "I am thinking about everything that lies ahead. And I am not afraid." He smiled, that warm, hopeful smile that had become my favorite thing in the world. "Neither am I," he said, "because I have you." I leaned into him, resting my head against his shoulder. The night was cool, but I felt warm. I felt safe. I felt home. And as the festival carried on around us, I let myself believe in the future. Not as a battle to be won, but as a gift to be cherished. I had been given a second chance, and I had made the most of it. I had turned my pain into purpose, my grief into grace. I was Shui Ling. I was a survivor. And I was ready for whatever came next.